Society views IVF as a flawless clinical transaction where precision medical science perfectly engineers a child on demand. Couples arrive at the clinic after years of quiet heartbreak, bringing with them immense emotional desperation and tens of thousands of dollars to begin the procedure. This chart breaks down global IVF outcomes, splitting the reality slightly off-center. The global success rate hovers around 40%. Look at the remaining 60%. That empty space represents the absolute boundary of current medical science, where guaranteed outcomes disintegrate into total unpredictability. The procedure is a grueling psychological gamble against steep, unexplained biological odds. Science can only take you so far. To understand why the odds are so difficult, we have to scale down from human expectations to cellular biology. The process begins with absolute precision. Doctors surgically extract the eggs, and an embryologist, a laboratory specialist in early cellular development, fertilizes them in a highly controlled environment. Here is the medical timeline: extraction, fertilization, and finally, transfer. That transfer is the absolute last physical action a doctor can take. Science hits a hard clinical blind spot at the implantation phase. There is no mechanism to force attachment. The second the embryo leaves the catheter, the microscope goes dark. Medical science steps back, forcing the patient to face that uncontrollable void entirely alone. The sterile laboratory is quickly replaced by the quiet anxiety of the patient's own home. They wait for weeks, monitoring every physical sensation for a sign that the procedure worked. For many, this leads to a cycle of attrition. A patient will undergo the exact same taxing medical procedure 2, sometimes 3 times, only to be met with repeated, completely unexplained biological failures. Leading fertility experts like Dr. Jatin Shah point to a recurring medical paradox. A patient might fail 3 times in a row, only to suddenly become pregnant on the 4th attempt, despite 0 clinical variables changing. When science stops offering answers, humans naturally search for them elsewhere. People travel to places like the famous Fertility temple in Shillong, seeking some semblance of control over a process that defies logic. Dr. Shah observes that what bridges the gap between those repeated failures and that sudden, final success is raw human willpower. The sheer wish to have a child demands an extreme, almost irrational level of positivity to endure the wait. This willpower does not magically alter cellular biology. It acts as the mandatory psychological armor required to survive the trauma of repeated medical failures, allowing them to show up for the next attempt. Defining a successful IVF patient requires accounting for their capacity to endure the void, alongside their biological response. The patient's mental fortitude carries exactly as much weight in reaching the finish line as the technical skill of the embryologist in the lab. This chart maps the disparity. Medical control remains capped at 40%, while the emotional commitment required from the patient stays locked at 100% through every attempt. Dr. Shah explicitly calls this process the emotional roller coaster. There is 0 guarantee of success, leading to severe, unpredictable psychological swings through every single cycle. Navigating those steep emotional drops and sudden spikes requires intense psychological endurance. Long before a child is ever conceived, the repetitive stress of the cycle hardens a parent's relationship with hope and failure. An IVF birth is a clinical result, but it is also the direct outcome of a parent's resilience. It is the physical proof of the willpower required to pursue life when the statistical odds were against them.